Yippee! Straight to the campsite. Oh, and how tiny my caravan looked against all the giants. In Inverness, it looked ever so much as though it might rain, so I decided to take my new waterproof raincoat. Oh no! I discovered that they were not in my caravan. Nothing at all waterproof. I couldn't believe it. I thought I'd planned so well and for so long, but I had every cupboard out and the cupboards, boxes and cases were bare. Well, there was nothing for it but to go into Inverness and buy some more stuff. So off I went into a shop, reluctantly choosing some more waterproof gear. Went to the pay desk to pay, and as I handed over my card, I remembered. I said to the assistant, "Oh, do excuse me, I've just decided I don't want them anymore," and I left the shop. I suddenly remembered that they had been following me all the time in the new boxes I bought and were in the car, not in the caravan. I had to laugh at the astonished look on the assistant's face. Later that day, I had a problem with my iPhone. Whenever I tried to take a picture, absolutely nothing happened. Very puzzled, I switched it on and off. I tried everything I knew. I just couldn't manage without the phone for the pictures, so I had to do a 20-mile detour. Of course, when I went into the shop, it started working. I said I couldn't understand it, but apparently it's because my hands were so cold the message wasn't getting through to the camera. If you plan to stop for more than one night in Inverness, you have plenty of interesting places to choose from. The Inverness Cathedral is beautiful. The lovely St Andrew's Cathedral stands opposite Castle Hill on the banks of the River Ness. Oh, and it's well worth a visit. It's amazing what you find when you walk around. Near the cathedral is the site of the first Highland Games Stadium. River Ness is over 6 miles long, oh, and with such beautiful walks. Inverness Castle looks quite majestic overlooking the river. Also worth a visit is the very pleasant Inverness Botanic Gardens and the Victorian Market. It's an indoor shopping arcade, but it was built in 1890. And if you want to stretch your legs, there's plenty of city walking tours to join. You could experience a very memorable journey on the Jacobite steam train as it crosses the Glenfinnan Viaduct. It's been voted one of the world's most scenic railways. And of course it's the Harry Potter train. Or you could take a day trip to the Isle of Skye. Oh, and that's beautiful. From Inverness, I decided to press on further to Dunrobin Castle. A beautiful castle and a great house, the earliest part being from the 13th century. It really was a fairy tale castle. After touring the house, I made my way down the many steps to visit the beautiful gardens. After a heroic climb back up to the top, I discovered there was a falconry display, which was taking place way back down in the gardens. I spoke to one of the assistants and asked if there was another way I could get down. She was ever so helpful and said it wouldn't be a problem. I was taken to the front door of the castle. It was very grand. I was kindly told that if I turned left and headed for the green vehicle, I would be taken down. To my utter surprise, all I saw was a green horse box. Turned to this old gentleman that was just walking across the path and said, "Excuse me, but I don't suppose you know anything about being transported down to the falconry display, do you? I really don't fancy going in a horse box." He laughed out loud. He said, "No, I'm sure, my dear, you're not expected to go down in a horse box." And with that, the same coloured green van appeared and a middle-aged man got out. The man that I had first asked, I guess somewhere in his 70s, spoke to the other person. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but the old gent came back and said it would be a pleasure to take me down. I questioned him and said, "Are you sure you will be all right to drive?" I saw him wink at the young man. Anyway, we both got into the people carrier van. It was only a short drive, but when we got to the bottom, he told me where the falconry display was going on, and I asked him how would I get back up to the house when it was finished. He said he would arrange for me to be picked up at midday, and would that be all right? I thanked him and said it would. The display had already started, and there was lots of wooden forms out. There was one form where there was only one person sat, so that was where I headed for. Within a couple of minutes, the hawk that was on display swooped towards the post behind me and caught his talons in my hair as I was in the way of his flight path. I can't honestly say that it didn't hurt, but it was just a bit of a shock. At the end of the show, the second person was there to pick me up. On the way back up to the house, I asked him who it was that brought me down, and he giggled. It was only a real live member of the aristocracy. He went on to tell me that his lordship had such a good laugh because I thought I was going to be transported in a horse box that he wanted to take me down himself. And here I am with a peregrine falcon, not the hawk whose flight path I was on. Next stop, Wick. Miles from Inverness, 103. This shows the place in Wick where it's the world's shortest street, and it holds a place in the Guinness Book of Records. Lots of wildlife and boat tours operate in and out of Wick. The Heritage Museum is an excellent insight into the life and history of Wick. It's fantastic. And can you believe Wick used to be the busiest herring port in Europe? I was taking a river walk when suddenly a wind stirred up and it became so ferocious that it blew underneath my umbrella and I could feel my feet lifting off the floor. The next thing I knew, my umbrella had been taken up in the air and was deposited in the river. I felt like Mary Poppins. Arrive at John O'Groats. Hooray! Miles from Wick to John O'Groats, 17 miles. To follow more of my adventures, if you want, please like and subscribe.